Well, good afternoon. My name is Terry Hatmaker, and I'm going to be your presenter today. Also with me are Chris Widener from our marketing department and our CEO, Alex Clay. So what are we going to be looking at today? Well, the first thing we're going to look at is the steps you should take before you generate or print any giving statement. Next, we'll go to how you're going to generate an online giving statement. And then we'll go to how to print giving statements so that you can mail them to the donors who do not want online giving statements. And finally, we'll have a Q&A session. Now, first, what are some of the steps you need to do before generating a statement? Well, first, you want to ensure all your donations are current. You want to go and make sure that you merge any duplicate donor records you have. And then you want to check those donor setups to make sure that they're set up properly so that when you go to run the statements, you'll get all of the donors you need. Let's first look at what you need to do to ensure all your donations are in CDM Plus. First, what you want to do is make sure that you have entered all your donations. And that would include any manual donations that you would put in the CDM Plus. Next, you want to make sure you processed your guest gifts. And you do this through the process pending donations window. This process is very important, and you don't want to miss this step before you generate any of your statements. For information on how to use the process pending donations window, Chris is going to drop a link to the web page that's visible here. It's called Process Pending Donations/Gifts, and there's a video as well as some step-by-step instructions. Once you've ensured that all of your donations are in, now you can go to your donor records and you can merge any duplicate donor records that you have. There is a very good article in our help center that is, again, visible right here, merging duplicate records in CDM Plus. It'll be helpful for you to go there. Make sure all of your donors only have a single donor record. Otherwise, you'll be sending them out to you'll send multiple giving statements to your donors. And finally, we want to look and make sure that our donors are set up to receive statements. On the donor record, you can see the area that I have highlighted in here and blown it up from down in the bottom portion of the window. There's an area where there are 3 checkboxes. One says does not receive a statement, another one says inactive, and a third says email statement. You want to make sure that does not receive statement and inactive is not checked if they're going to receive a statement. Secondly, if you want to notify them that they have an online giving statement, then you'll want to make sure that the email statement checkbox is checked. And we believe that basically that might be checked by default, but if not, you can contact our support and we can put through a request so that all of your donors would have that email statement checked. Now, to look at this and kind of give you a sense of how you're going to determine who is not set up properly, let's go into CDM Plus Desktop. Let's go into donor records. So we're in our donor records window. And in order to find those donors who've given in 2022 from this window, we can set up a search at the top that says last donation date is greater than or equal to 1/1/2022. And then we can click the Find Records Find Records button. Now, this gives us a list of all of the donors that have given in 2022. And we see that right down here that we have 18 results. But the tag here says that this list is being filtered. And by default, we filter out any inactive donors. And so you can see it's this, we have this column set up. So if you see that you have filtered here, you'll want to make sure that you click the word filtered, and now that's going to turn green and say unfiltered, and you can see that we have 19 results now. That's because this one donor is inadvertently set to inactive. To change this, I can double click this. That'll take me into the change mode. I can then uncheck inactive and then go to the upper left and save my changes. Now, you see in this upper window, I have these 3 columns, and so I can go through and I can see who is set not to receive a statement or who's set to receive a statement, email statement. So if I click on this column heading, I can sort this list by this column. I'll click it again, and now I can see all of the yeses at the top. So I can see all of those that are going to receive an email statement. Likewise, over the does not receive statement, I can click on that. And I can see that there is one donor that is set not to receive a statement. It is an anonymous donor. And so this is not a donor that I want to send a statement to. So I'm going to leave this checkbox checked. Now, once you have made all these checks, you feel comfortable with your setup, and everything has been done, like merging of duplicate records and checking process pending, then you're ready to begin generating and printing statements. So what we're going to do is we're going to first go over how to generate and notify for online statements. In the Welcome to CDM Plus window, okay, and this is for the essentials. If you have our choice or core, you can go up to the reports menu and you will find online statements in that list. So I can click online statements here. All right, and this brings us to the giving statement batch window. As you can see, this is the first time I'm going to generate any giving statement batches, and so it's empty, but you can have any number of batches, and you can generate more additional batches, throughout the year, like if you want to generate them on a quarterly basis. So how do we generate? We're going to click on generate here. And now we have our start and end dates for 2022. Here is a memo field. This is the giver's message. Here is where you want to make sure that you enter the statement that no goods or services have been used. So you would type in that message that you want. Okay, so I'm going to just say ... but that particular message that you want, along with anything else, you can enter. I know Stewardship automatically dropped that statement in, but we don't automatically do that. So you'll need to make sure you enter that in. Once you have your giver's message, you can go down to the generate for. Now we're going to generate for all donors, but as you can see, if you just need to generate a statement for one donor, you can do that, or a specific range. So with all of this set up, then down at the bottom right, I'm going to click on generate batch. Now it's generating the statements, and you can see that we have a number of donors listed here. Okay, and these are the donors that are going to receive the statements. And in these columns, you can see that, like for Mark Hunter, you can see the number of donations that will be on that statement, the total amount of the donations. Right now it's unpublished, and you'll see a view and download button. So we'll look at that in a second. In the upper portion of the window, you see the generation date, the date that the date range of this batch, and how many donors are in the batch. Now, with this, As I said, this is an unpublished, these are unpublished statements. Well, what does that mean? Right now, even though you generated this, the donor cannot see their online statements and engage yet. That was only made available when you publish them, okay? So, but if you need to go through and you want to look at any specific giving statement, you can by just clicking on the View Action button here. And you can see that we have our statement. You can print it or you can download it if you want. So let's publish all of these. All right, so we have 18 statements that have been published. And now you see a green tag. And so these are now ready. These are now available for your donors on their Engage site. So let's go over to Engage. And I'm going to log in as Mark Hunter. And if I go up to the menu in the upper right, I can come down. And now you see statements under the giving section. And there's his statement. And he is able to view that. He's able to download it. And there's the download. And so, as you can see, it's made available immediately when you publish those statements in this window. Now, right now, no one's notified. He would just happen to see that if he logged in. And that's where emailing all published statements is important, because this will send an email to those donors that are set up to receive email statements, and they will get notification that their statements are available online. Now, how do I know who's going to receive those emails? Well, we know that the checkbox email statement needed to be checked. Those donors who don't have that checked are going to be marked here with the email button with a red exclamation point, okay? And so any of these that you see that have that exclamation point, that means over in CDM Plus, and I go to donor records, let's just go and take a look. So this donor right here, Alex Clay, is not set. So if I go and look for Alex Clay, email statement is not checked, okay? And so that means they're not going to get an email for that statement. Now, when you're ready, you would just click email all published, and it will send an email notice. Now, let's think of a scenario where you might need to say, oh, wait a second, this particular statement's not right. What do I do? Well, if you need to make a change to a particular statement, like Mark Hunter's, you can come in this area under status, click on the dropdown, and there's an option here called retract. So I can retract this gift. Now that gift is retracted. And what that means is that's no longer available to Mark when he goes over into his Engage account. So if we go back to his Engage account here, let's just go back to his profile and let's reload this page. If I come down to giving statements, you can see that he no longer has a statement available. Now, another very important thing here is that when your statements are published, you can't make any changes. So that's why you need to retract this to make a change. Now that I retracted this statement, I can go back into CDM Plus, make any necessary changes, updates to his donations, and then I can regenerate his statement. Okay, so let's just assume that I've gone in, I made the changes, and I can come in here and I can click this drop down and I can say regenerate. Once I regenerate it, it's still unpublished, okay? Because now we've generated that statement. Now let's publish that again. And we just go to publish. And now it is once again published. And if I pull up Safari and I refresh, I should see my giving statement there again. And there it is. Okay. So that is how you would go through the process of generating your online giving statements, publishing those statements to Engage so that your donors can get online and download a copy of their statements. And then, if you need to make changes, you have means of being able to retract those statements that need to be corrected. So that is how you would generate online statements. Now let's go to printing statements. So you have some of your donors who don't want to receive online statements. They want you to mail them out to them. So you would come in and you click print statements. This brings up the print statements window. Make this a little bit wider. And I've set my date range to work off of donation date. And I've set the 2022 year. I make sure that all funds and all payment types are selected. Under the report option, I can set how I want the sort order. I can choose donor name. I could do it by donor code, or I could do it by zip code. A lot of users will want to use zip code since they're doing mailouts. In addition, if you just need to print one record, you would set that here under the donor code selection. Now, this donor options area is very important because this is going to be the area where you set whether or not you want to include certain donors to be printed or not. So for instance, you have some of those that you'd set up for email statement. Well, let's say you wanted to print those statements as well as make them available online. Well, if you want to include them in your printing, then you would put a check in this box. If you want to include those donors that are not marked to receive a statement, you can include them here, as well as inactive donors. Another area you might want to go and look at is in the format area. Here you can set up your fonts that you want to use and any sort of memos or whatever. You can also choose not to include the search description. You can pick and choose what footer options you want to include and how you want your date formatted. I'll choose the date format like this. When you have these set up the way you want, then you just go to the next item. You can go to your page setup or whatever. What I want to highlight is messages. Just like on the online giving statements, the printed statements also does not automatically include that no goods or services were provided statement. So it's under this area of the print statements window that you'll want to enter in your giver message. And by default, we set the descriptions for the totals by deductible and non-deductible, because the statements will itemize those totals for you as deductible and non-deductible. And when you have that set, now you can go and click on refresh. So here is our donation, our giving statement here. You have two addresses. These statements will work in a double window number 10 envelope. So it's set up for that. If yours is not showing just properly, you can go under the alignment option here and make some tweaks so that you can get those in properly. In addition, you come down into this, you see that you have the detail that shows all of the gifts by date, along with the total and how they were broken out by fund. And then you have a total section that breaks it out by funds. And here is that total for tax deductible donations. And then finally, your giver's message is right here. Now, in this window, it just keeps scrolling to see each donor's giving record. Okay. Now, once you have this and you looked at it and you said everything's fine, you have two options to be able to print. You can print right directly to your printer up here in the upper right, or you can print to a PDF. If you have a lot of giving statements to print, we suggest you use the PDF option. That gives you the ability to keep an electronic copy, which I think is good for anybody of however many giving statements you have. But what this does is it gets around any problems when you have, hundreds and hundreds of printing statements, gets around any problems of, losing connection or losing power in the middle of it, and you can't figure out where it stopped. Print it to PDF, and then once you have it in PDF, open it up in your PDF reader and then print it from there. It'll make cleaner, and it'll be easier in the long run by doing that. All right, so once you print those off, then you can stuff them in the envelopes and go right ahead and mail them to your donors. So today we've looked at how to set up your donors and how to ensure that you have all of your donations entered into CDM Plus, and we've looked at online giving statements and print statements. All right, well, thank you all for coming. If you have any more questions, you can email our support team at support@cdmplus.com, and we'll be happy to help you.